What's up, y'all? It's Pat from Texas Freshwater Fly Fishing again. Back here today with another Tuesday tie video, and today we're going to be tying up my version of a muddler minnow. Be sure if you're enjoying these videos, guys, you hit that like button, subscribe, it really helps me out. Share these videos with your friends, do what you can to spread the word about it. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started and get to tying this fly. Alright, y'all, so this version, my version of the muddler minnow, it's a great fly for bass, great fly for trout, but I really throw it a lot for bass. We're tying it up. It's kind of more of a marabou muddler. We're going to tie it up today in this kind of tan and beige color, but just so you can see, I also tie it up in an olive, and I'll tie it up in a black. But like I said, it's going to be this tan and beige. Alright, so to get things started, these are the hooks I'm using today, size 6. Really, you can use any straight shank 3X or 4X long hook to tie this fly up. But yeah, I'm gonna tie it up in size 6, which is just a little bit bigger. It's good size for the bass. And I'm gonna use some brown thread. I usually use a little bit thicker thread when I'm tying this. You'll see why later on. But we're gonna start wrapping that thread on. And we're gonna start about 1/3 of the way down the hook, maybe a little bit more. But we wanna leave that space at the front. That's where we're gonna spin our deer hair for the head of this fly. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap a base down to the bend of the hook. When I get to the bend, that's where I'm going to stop, and that's where I'm going to tie in my tail. For this muddler, I'll use a marabou for the tail, and we're going to do it in this beige color. So you're going to select yourself a bunch of that marabou that you want to use for the tail. I like to use the marabou. It gives a lot of good movement and action. Traditional muddler minnow just has that turkey feather. I don't feel like it moves as much, so I like the marabou. But you're going to take yourself a chunk of marabou, and we're going to tie it in as the tail. The length of the tail is usually about half the length of the hook. So about half the length of the hook past it is where you're going to tie it in. It's a shorter tail than on a lot of flies. We'll go ahead and wrap that in here. Take a few wraps to tie that in. Then I'm going to trim it up, this excess. I'm not going to cut all of it. Leave some there to kind of maintain and start thickening that body just a hair. Go ahead and tie that in right there. The next thing we want to tie in is the ribbing. I'm going to use this brown wire as my ribbing, and I'm going to lay it down right on top, right at that same 1/3 point. That's where it's going to start. That's where I'm going to start wrapping it in. I'm going to wrap it back and then get it nice and secure down here where the tail starts. Wrap down and then back up the hook shank, stopping at that same 1/3 point. Alright, so we got that wire ribbing tied in. Next thing we want to tie in is our tinsel. I use this gold tinsel for the body, and I'll take myself a section of that. And when I tie it in, I like to tie it in with the underside or the silver side facing me at that same 1/3 point where we're tied off everything else. A couple wraps to secure it on, and the tinsel facing backwards. It helps me when I start laying the body down. So as I'm wrapping backwards with my tinsel back towards the bend of the hook, I try to lay it down one piece right next to the other. Don't overlap any here, or I don't. And I'll take that, lay it down all the way back to the bend of the hook where the tail starts, carefully there. And then I'll start wrapping back up. And when I wrap back up, I try to overlap it. And so I'll lay one wrap down on top of, or halfway on top of, the last wrap that I just took, right? and it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to clump up, and you're going to miss some spots, but that's perfectly okay. It doesn't matter. So go ahead and wrap it up all the way up to that same 1/3 point. You're just building a body with some of this tinsel. It's going to provide some flash there to the fly. And once you get up to that same 1/3 point, we're going to wrap it, tie it off. Tie it off. Trim it up. Doesn't have to be beautiful, doesn't have to be perfect. It's all going to get covered up in a minute anyway. So a few wraps to tie it off. Then we're going to pull our wire ribbing and we're going to go the opposite direction. And we're going to make our ribs. Evenly space those turns. You can vary the color of this ribbing up depending on what color combination you're doing for your fly. Then we're going to wrap it, tie off this wire for the ribbing. Got a few wraps there, tie it off. And we're going to go ahead and break it off. I'm just going to clip it today, but you can bend it off and tie that down. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is tie in the underwing of this fly. And for the underwing on a traditional Muddler Minnow is squirrel tail, a gray squirrel tail, and that's what I use for this too. All you're going to do is take yourself a chunk of it, cut off a chunk, doesn't have to be that much. Grab it, pull out some of those short hairs. Get your chunk, and we want to lay it down to where the squirrel tail, the longest pieces of that squirrel tail are about halfway down the tail. Go ahead and wrap it in there. And so the way I wrap in this squirrel tail is I'll take 2 or 3 wraps there to hold it in, and I'll kind of push it down to flatten it out. Take another couple wraps. Then I'll take this squirrel tail and try to like fold it backwards and take some wraps on it there. Once I get a few wraps with it backwards, that helps hold this squirrel tail in place. Then I'll trim off those ends. Don't have to get them all, it's all going to get covered up. But I'll try to hold down those ends. Squirrel tail is a real slick material. Real slick. And so it has a tendency to want to slide out. You can also put a dab of super glue or something there to help hold those in place. But that's how I do it. Right there. So then after you put in that underwing, we're going to build the actual wing on top of that. And for the wing itself, again, I'm going to use that same marabou that I used for the tail. Get myself a good clump of it. Same marabou I tied for the tail. And I'm going to lay it down just right on top. Same length as the squirrel tail. Should go about halfway the length of your tail there. And we'll lay this wing right on top of that. And this is all on top of that 1/3 point of our hook. Take a few wraps to hold that down, secure that down. Trim off that excess. Take a few wraps to kind of clean it up. And then on top of that, we build what I call the top wing. The top wing is just going to be peacock curl. Okay, I'll usually do 4 strands of it. So to do that, the same length, maybe just slightly shorter than we do that top wing. I'm gonna go ahead and lay 2 strands of peacock curl down, take a couple wraps, I trim it off, and I take those same 2 pieces of peacock curl and lay them right down on top again, same length as the others. Couple wraps, trim it up. Alright, so get a few wraps there, close everything down. I like to take a little bit of head cement, put it right there on all that stuff, help hold that stuff in place. And we're gonna go ahead, and I usually take a few wraps down, and then build up just a little bit of a base in front. Let my head cement fly, and the head cement dry on this fly, and I'll come right back to build the head of the fly. All right, that head cement has had time to dry right there. You don't have to wait forever, but let that head cement dry, and then we're gonna go ahead, and from there, we're gonna build the head of the fly. And this is where you get to have a little fun. Don't get frustrated. It's not easy when you're just starting. Heck, it's not easy for me. It's a muddler minnow. It doesn't have to be perfectly spun deer hair. In fact, you want it to create some disturbance in the water. So I actually like to spin it in kind of loose and nasty like. But anyway, I take this natural colored deer hair here and cut off a clump about the thickness of a pencil. About the thickness of a pencil. And maybe for this first clump, you can go a little bit heavier than that. But still like about the size of a pencil. And you're gonna grab it by the ends and pull out all that under fuzz, that under fur, and some of the shorter hairs. You can also hit it with a comb to pull that out, but I'll just pull it out with my fingers. All right, a lot of people take it, they'll stick their hair in a hair stacker. I'm not that particular. I just kind of stack it on my finger a little bit, try to get the end links to be about the same point. And we're gonna tie this in first. We want the hair ends to stop about where the hook point would be, okay? So I'm gonna take it and lay it down, lay all that down right there on top of the hook. And here's how I spin it. I take one loose wrap to kind of secure it in place, squeeze it down a little bit. And then my second wrap, I'll take a little bit tighter, squeeze it more, and spin. Take another 3 or 4 wraps to hold that in place. Push your hair back. Push it back just to pack it in a little bit. I don't pack it in too tight on this fly. Again, my goal is to create a disturbance, so I feel like if you can have some air pockets in there, you can have it tied in a little bit looser, you're going to create more of a disturbance in that water with this fly. Okay, so we'll get that tied in right there. Spun it around, tied in, push back. Next, we're going to take another clump of it, about that same size, about the size of a pencil again. Sometimes I make this second clump just a hair smaller, but really look at how much space you have left in your fly on your hook shank. Do the same thing, clean it out, get all those shorter hairs, the under fur, that fuzzy stuff in there, get it out. Again, you can hit it with a brush, a comb to get that out. It's gonna make a mess, guys. All right, and so this hair, this bunch, I tie in the opposite way. I'll stack it to where the links of my hair, I'll stack it the other way in my hand. Again, I'm not too particular like some people are on this fly, to where the cut ends are the same way, or stop at the same point. And I tie this one in backwards, right? So instead of having the regular ends of the hair facing back, I'm taking my cut ends and facing them back. And I'll lay this down right there in front of where the other one was. And I'll go through that same thing. 1, wrap, 2, spin it. Get a few spun through there. Tie it in tight. Take your hair, push it back. Pack it in. Build yourself a little thread dam in front of it. And this second bunch I pack a little bit tighter. The stuff here at the front of the fly, the head of the fly. Build up that thread dam a little bit. Go ahead, give yourself a whip finish or 2. It's not easy always with that hair there, so I kind of hold it back. One, Okay, once you got a couple whip finishes there, go ahead and trim your thread. Get your head cement. Cover that thread in head cement. And we're gonna go ahead and let that dry. So go ahead and let that sit there just like that. Let that head cement dry, and we'll come back and I'll show you how I trim up the head of my muddler minnow. All right, now that that head cement has had time to dry on your fly, you need to go ahead and trim up this deer hair, this spun hair, to create the head of your fly. I like to make mine into like a cone shape. You can trim it up however you want. Some people make it more squared off, but there's all different ways you can do it. I'll give you a couple hints. First of all, don't get too frustrated. You're gonna mess up, doesn't matter. Fly will still fish. You'll get better as you practice. Second, okay, don't take off too much at one time. Okay, we're gonna trim it up. You can start by doing just a little bit at a time because you can always cut more, can't put it back on. Here's how it goes. I usually take a double-edged razor blade, and I was taught, fold it in half, break it in half, put one to the side so you know where it is. Then we're gonna start with the top of the fly. I'll take the razor blade, roll it in my fingers to the shape I want, push this hair forward. You're gonna start at the top of the fly and just trim it up going backwards. See, I didn't take much off that time. It's okay. You can always come back and take off more. There we go. Okay, kind of see how I'm taking it off. Now I'll start working around. I'll keep that same shape all the way around my fly. I keep pushing my hair forward. And once you get quite a bit taken off, kind of get the basic shape you want, you can take it out of the vise. You can look at it, keep your razor blade, and you can kind of start shaping it how you want. Just very carefully, right? Try to do it where y'all can see. Start shaving to the shape you want that head to be. I like mine to be kind of a cone shaped. I'll leave all these longer hairs that we had sticking out the back, even on the bottom. Some people only leave it on the top and trim the bottom. I leave it both ways. What I do at this point is I'll try to grab those hairs that were longer at the back and pull out all those shorter fibers so I can see what I'm working with, and just carefully shave back to the shape I want. Again, I am no pro at this. I suck at it. That's okay. My muddler minnows still catch fish. So will yours. trim it up. Once you have your head done, that's all you gotta do. There we go. Now that I got deer hair stuck to me everywhere, and like I said, it's gonna make a mess. There you go, Muddler Minnow. It's kind of a marabou Muddler Minnow, my version of it, in kind of a tan and beige. Go fish it. Hope you have fun. Go catch yourself some good fish. Thanks, guys. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, check out more information on TexasFreshwaterFlyFishing.com. Thanks again. See y'all next week.